today because you have been identified as someone who has much to share about the subject of the 1979 strike at the Clinton Corn Processing Company. We would like to record your conversations today. We will also need you to sign a form devised to meet Augustana College's research requirements and 2 other forms to give the recording as a gift to the Clinton Public Library. Essentially, this document states that 1. Only the information that you are comfortable being used in the research will be used. 2. Your participation is voluntary, and you may stop at any time if you feel uncomfortable. And 3. You may choose to remain anonymous if you wish. Otherwise, your name may be used in future presentations, publications, documentaries, and online materials based on this research. Please sign the release forms after reading them if you agree to participate. After the recording has been transcribed and you have placed whatever restrictions you would like to on the information will be released. Then the materials will be placed in the archives of the Clinton Public Library permanently. Thank you for your agreeing to participate. We plan this interview to last no longer than 1 hour. During this period, we have several questions that we would like to cover. We do not foresee any questions that will make you uncomfortable, but please let us know it does, and we can move on to another topic. Please also let us know at any point if you need to end the interview earlier, or we will shorten the interview. On the other hand, if time begins to run short, it may be necessary to interrupt you in order to push ahead and complete this line of questioning, or come back for a follow-up interview. Would you please state your name, the date of the interview, and ask the interviewees their names. So I'm Cleo Labolka.
I'm Jimmy Pinozzo.
I'm Larry Hood.
I'm Karen Hood.
Laary.
Yeah.
Can I correct you on one thing?
Yes.
It wasn't 79.
Oh, no?
It was 75.
75.
Now,
The
there,
wild.
I think there was another, was there
There
another
was one
strike in
later.
79?
Yeah.
No, we're talking about the ones that lost the jobs and everything. That's what I was involved with.
Okay, yeah, the 75 Wildcat.
It was a
Yes.
wildcat.
Okay.
That's the one.
Right.
Okay. And do you spell your name with K-E? Or K-A-R-E?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, first we were gonna start with your background, like, so your name, like, current city of residence, and your occupation, and, like, where you were before, and during and after the strike, the wildcat strike.
My name then, or
Like the city, and...
City of Clinton.
Uh-huh, and you lived there your whole life?
Yeah, I've lived here all my life. We live at 2014 16th Street Northwest, Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you
Well, at that time, we had just been in our new home 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a newborn baby, 5 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And we had started an upholstery business previous to that at a different house, and it was supposed to be a hobby. And when he lost his job, we were devastated because I couldn't go out and work. I had 4 children. I think I had 1 in school and 3 at home. And so I could not go out and work. And we had some work to do, and so we had hopes that we would win the arbitration, and it took about 3.5 years.
3.5 years that they just hung us there.
And so during that
Could
time,
not put an application up to 300 miles.
Mm-hmm.
I've even actually put applications in, and they wouldn't take it.
well, because he was going through
I was going
arbitration.
through arbitration.
And if he had won arbitration, he would have gotten the back pay.
Mm-hmm.
for-
Well, he
never
didn't win
worked.
it.
Out of the 45, there was only 1 person won it. And we couldn't understand how it went that way, because there was cases in there that was even better than the cases that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
My case, what happened, I was working day shift. If I would have been on 3 to 11 or 11 to 7, it would never happen to me.
Right.
And what happened was, I get a call about noon, and it was the operator that was going to relieve me on job and said that they were going to have a strike because a guy got caught stealing light bulbs down. And I told them right there, I says, I am not going to walk off my job because of a guy getting caught stealing light bulbs. Well, I get out of off the phone, it was just like this. Salary personnel come over and says, you got an outside telephone call. Who was it? And I told them. And they asked me what was going on, and I told them. And they asked me, what you gonna do? I said, I'm staying on my job. Well, I had 3 operators. There was 3 of us. I had 2 other operators. And I told the 2 operators what was going on and what happened. They said, I think you should talk to the business agent. I had told them that I was not walking off, and people were walking off left and right. My one operator at 12:30 said, I ain't waiting for anything, walked off the job. My other operator and I stayed on the job. I had talked to the business agent. He says to me, I want you to come to the meeting. And he said the oldest, look at the contract book, the oldest qualified man has got the right to go home at the end of his shift. The youngest qualified man has to stay. And I looked it over and everything like this, and I was the oldest qualified man. I had 2 other men in the room that was qualified to run my job. And what happened, the assistant foreman says to me, he says, what you gonna do? I says, I'm staying on my job, working my full 8 hours. If they're going to shut it down, I will stay the 8 hours and shut it down properly. I'm not walking off and let it go. But if you're going to run it, I'm the oldest qualified man. I've got 2 men that can run the job. And he turned right around to me and he says to me, he says, you refuse to run the job? I said, I don't have to run the job after my 8 hours. And he says to me, he says, you're suspended, just like that. And my other operator says to me, he says, why'd you suspend him? He's staying the full 8 hours. He says, you're suspended too. Well, we got suspended, and we were, I went to the union meeting and everything afterwards, and what happened, about a week later, I think it was a week later, that I went back to work.
No, it was within a couple
days. Couple days I went back to
They
work.
let him go back to work.
And I went back to work and worked almost, was it about a week, I think.
No, I don't think it was that long, just a few
And then
days.
I ended up
And his
losing
foreman
my job.
called him, I remember it was in the evening when he got the call, and he said, well, you're done.
just like that.
And immediately, our medical insurance, we had no
I
insurance at
had
all, no grace period.
Got 4 children. The oldest one was 7 years old. The youngest one was 5 months old. Could not put an application up to 300 miles. I put applications out at Kimplex, and they were really interested, and I said I could run the jobs and everything like this. Call them up, and he says, we can't take it. I says, why? I says, have you talked to Clinton Corn? We can't take a union. And that was it. And what happened, it went 3 years. And the only thing that saved me is I had my upholstering business going. Had it going, and it worked out that we had enough work to last us for maybe a couple weeks, but it just kept on growing and kept on growing. And right now, out of them 4 children, my oldest daughter has got 2 degrees, two masters, 2 master's degrees. My oldest son has got an MIS degree and he works for a Federal Reserve in Kansas City. My second son is a chiropractor, has got a clinic in Sevierville, Tennessee. And my youngest one, the 5-month-old, has got an MIS degree and he works for Bunge in the corporate in St. Louis, Missouri. But what happened right from the start, they wanted to break the union. And they tried every way that, years past, they tried every way to break the union. And what happened, we ended out almost 3 years before we went to arbitration. In arbitration, you had a chair and you had tables on both sides, lawyers from
Both sides.
on both sides. One was for the companies and one was for a union. And I had wrote a note to give to my lawyer to ask me this question. And the question was did he work his full 8 hours? And they asked the foreman, and the foreman said, yes, he did work his full 8 hours. And what the next question said, I said, did you ever have any trouble with him? I never have missed a day in 12 years. Never missed one day in 12 years. And the third question, was he the oldest qualified operator that day? And he says, yes, he was the oldest qualified operator, and they had him right on the job. Well, I ended out, they went back and forth, and they had asked my foreman that before they started talking to me, and my foreman was Ray Carr, and he told me, he says that the lawyer said there was no way that they could win this case, and I still lost the case. But what happened, out of the 45, like I said, there was only one person out of 45 that lost their jobs. But we actually went, on your side, we went through, tell them how it was with when you picketed it and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah, us women, we formed a women's auxiliary then and went to meetings, and I remember picketing down there, but, you know, that was really a joke. Company, I mean, basically, you know, when the dust settled, we realized the headquarters, they wanted to get rid of the union, and they did. And they didn't care who they stepped on. You were done. You were nothing.
And the thing is, they just didn't want to take your job. It was almost like that they were trying to take everything you had. Because like I said, can you imagine having a husband, you with 4 children, and you could not put an application?
In a brand new home.
Brand new home. But I was lucky enough that I had this trade, and I always said that I thought somebody was looking down on me, because boy, there was times there that I can remember one Christmas,
Yeah.
we didn't have anything. But
We were, I had canned we always put garden in, and I had canned carrots that summer. And my daughter, the oldest, she says, hey Mom, I'll go downstairs and get a quart of carrots. We'll make carrot bread, you know? I mean, and she was old enough, she remembers all that. And she made her mind up that when she got older, she would never have to live through that. And she's very educated, so she's worked hard. But yeah, we went through some really hard times. And but we stuck together. There were couples that got divorced. Well, why would we get divorced? What would I do if I divorced him? And he didn't have any money anyway, and there's 4 kids. How am I going to support 4 children? And we just stuck together, and I don't know, our business grew, we worked hard, and that's how we've made our living. And never dreamed that that's how we'd make a living.
One
Yeah.
other thing
On our
too,
own.
the one reason that I wanted to go home that night, it was my second son's birthday,
Yeah, it was the 18th of February.
18th of
And
February.
when he walked, I was listening to a radio station that Clinton had called Homespun Lane, and I was baking my son's birthday cake. And so I knew they had this walkout. And he came home, and he walks in and he says, well, I've been suspended, but it's okay, everything's going to be right, I'm going to go to the meeting. And he came home to get his union card, which he kept in his wallet. He never took his wallet to work. And so I'm thinking, oh, okay, suspended. We weren't really worried then.
Yeah.
But as time went on, well, we found out, what happened. But it was a hard time, but we got through it, and I hated him working shifts anyway.
I always said she prayed too much. She
I
didn't want
did
me to
not.
work
I did
shift.
not like living like that. He worked 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, and I didn't grow up living like that with my dad. And so we just,
And see, she's from St. Louis,
Yeah, I'm not
Missouri.
from
She
here.
isn't
I'm
from
not from
Clinton.
here.
One of my next.
so.
But,
Can you explain what your specific job was
I was
and how you
a,
were qualified?
well, I actually had the highest paid operator job. It was a, you call it Refinery 5. It was a computer job. Now you think 1975, it was computers. Everything was set up with computers.
But it filled up the whole room.
It was a room even bigger than what this
They were
room was
different
here.
types
And
of
it was,
computers then.
had the panel boards and everything. And he was talking about Bob Bigwood. Bob Bigwood was one of the operators that ran Refinery 5 too. But it's funny, all these years, there's times that I'll dream about that job down there. Something, and I've been away from there for, was it 30, 35?
How old's John? 44. Or is it 41? Well, no. At least 40.
Yeah, 40 years. But,
Mm-hmm.
but we've done very, very good. And it's just
Hard work.
hard work. You just keep on going, and it was like I was telling you, I had plenty of money when I started in bank and stuff like that, but that went so quick,
Yeah,
it
that
was
went real
unbelievable.
quick. Our savings went
And
real
I can
quick.
remember there was times that I'd come home there and she was crying like a son of a gun, wondering if we could pay the bills, like this. But it always seemed like there was somebody looking down on me, because it was all, if something would come up that it was really hard, a job would come up that would take care of it, and it
But one of the reasons he got into the upholstering was I told him to get a hobby when we got married. But also, he always wanted something he could fall back onto in case they had a strike.
right.
And that had happened before when we were living in the other house. I forget why you had the strike then, but you were out 6 weeks.
6 weeks, and I thought, other than going out and looking for a job or something
Like
like this,
painting.
I'll go ahead and have this as a sideline, never
Yeah,
thinking
No, never.
that this was, if somebody would have told me back then that I would have ended out having a trade, a upholstering trade, I'd think, you're crazy. But I'll tell you right now, it saved us, and it really did save
Yeah.
us. But I'll tell you, even with you, get your education, because boy, it's gonna help you out. Back then, when we were working, if we didn't like our job, we could quit our job and the next day have another job someplace else.
Jobs were
But it's
very
totally
plentiful.
different now. And I'll tell you, I'd hate to be going through and starting all over without an education too. But it's worked out. I had a very good wife and the children, and I had people that helped us out, and it's worked out real fine for us. If you got any other questions you want to ask, then
Yeah, well, I just kind of want to get like the before the strike, like narration, like talking about how the community was before the strike, and like if you guys were like a close knit community in Clinton, and
Hmm.
you know, and then talk about the effects after the strike, if